When I look back on my life now, at the age of 86, there's one decision I wish I had thought through more carefully: moving into a nursing home. At the time, it seemed like the practical choice, the safe choice. My family thought I'd be more comfortable, more cared for, less burdened by the day-to-day challenges of living alone. I thought the same thing. But the reality turned out to be very different from the picture I had in my mind. And that's why I want to share my experience with you. Not to complain, not to discourage you, but to tell you the truths I wish someone had told me before I made that move. If you're considering the step for yourself or a loved one, or if you just want to understand what really happened behind those doors, my story might help you see things in a new light. I'll be honest. One of the hardest parts of me was realizing how much personal freedom I lost the very moment I walked into that nursing home. At first, I thought it wouldn't bother me. I told myself, I'll have my own space. I'll still make my own decisions. They'll just be there to help when I need it. But that wasn't how it worked out. Suddenly, my life was no longer on my schedule. It was on theirs. Breakfast wasn't whenever I wanted it. It was at 7:30 sharp. Lunch came at 12, dinner at 5. No matter if I was hungry or not. If I felt like sleeping in, that wasn't really an option. Staff needed to come in, check vitals, pass medications. If I wanted to stay up late with a book, lights out wasn't exactly up to me. And it might sound like small things, but when you've lived your entire life setting your own pace, making your own choices, even about the little things, those losses add up. They cut into your sense of dignity. You start to feel like you're not the one living your life anymore. You're just following orders. I remember lying in bed one night, staring at the ceiling, thinking, so this is it? My time is no longer mine. That thought broke something inside me, and privacy became almost non-existent. I'd spent decades in my own home where I could close the door and be truly alone with my thoughts. In the nursing home, you're rarely alone. Staff come in and out. Sometimes you share a room. Sometimes there are cameras in the halls. Footsteps outside the door. Even when nobody's in the room, you know at any moment they might walk in. That constant awareness that you're being monitored, watched, managed, makes it hard to relax, hard to feel at peace. I had a friend, James, who was a few years younger than me. He moved into a nursing home not long after I did. One day we sat in the courtyard together, and he leaned in and whispered, "You know what I miss most? I miss making my own coffee when I want it. I miss walking into my kitchen at dawn, smelling those beans, pouring it into my own mug. Here, it's just a cup handed to me at the same time every morning. It's not the coffee I miss, it's the choice." And that's exactly it. People think it's about the big things, but no, it's those tiny, daily freedoms that make a person feel alive. Without them, the days all start to blur together. Now, I don't want you to think I'm saying nursing homes are all bad. They do provide care. If someone has serious medical needs, if they truly can't manage alone, the support can be life-saving. But the trade-off is enormous. And most families don't realize how big that trade-off is until it's too late. That's why I'm telling you now. Weigh it carefully. Ask the hard questions. Because once you move in, you don't just give up your house. You give up a piece of yourself. Another thing that surprised me was the loneliness. Isn't that strange? You'd think, surrounded by people, you'd feel less lonely. But it doesn't work that way. You can sit in a room full of residents and still feel invisible. Conversations can be shallow, repetitive. People are dealing with their own health struggles, their own fatigue. Staff are kind but busy. They rush from task to task. It's not the kind of companionship that fills your heart. I'll never forget my friend Carol. She was a lively woman, full of stories, always smiling. But when she moved in, her spark began to fade. She told me, "I'm surrounded by people, but I feel lonelier than ever. At home, I have my neighbors, my church, my book club. Here, everyone is polite, but no one really knows me." And I understood exactly what she meant, because in a nursing home, you lose your roles. You're not the gardener anymore. You're not the cook or the storyteller or the neighbor everyone waves to. You're just another resident waiting for the next meal, the next activity on the schedule. That loss of identity cuts deep. I noticed it in myself, too. Back home, I was always busy with something. Fixing the garden gate, writing letters, choosing what soup to make. In the nursing home, I sat and waited. Waited for meals, for medication, for visiting hours. Waiting became my new routine. And with waiting comes a strange kind of emptiness. Days drag, weeks slip by, and sometimes you wonder, is this really living? Or just existing until time runs out? And the worst part? Many families don't see this side. When they visit, they see the clean rooms, the friendly staff, the activity calendar pinned to the wall. It all looks fine on the surface. But they don't see the hours between, the quiet loneliness, the way a person shrinks a little more each day inside that system. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you so you can prepare, so you can ask better questions. If you or someone you love is considering a nursing home, look beyond the medical care. Ask, will they respect my freedom? Will I have privacy? Will I still be able to make choices? Even small ones? Will I have real chances to connect with people or just sit in a room with them? Because those things matter more than you might realize. They matter to the soul. Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever thought about what it would feel like to give up control of your day-to-day life? Imagine someone else deciding when you eat, when you bathe, when you go outside. Imagine never closing your door without expecting it to open again any second. Imagine wanting to talk, but no one really has time to listen. How would that sit with you? If you're shaking your head right now, that's exactly why I'm sharing this. I remember another neighbor, George. He loved woodworking, spent hours in his garage building birdhouses, fixing furniture. When he moved into a nursing home, that part of his life just ended. No tools allowed, no space for projects. He told me, I feel like I've lost myself. They feed me, they give me pills, but they've taken away the things that made me who I am. And I could see it in his eyes, that quiet grief of losing more than just freedom, losing purpose. That's what people don't always understand. Moving into a nursing home isn't just about changing your address. It's about giving up pieces of your identity, one by one. And if you're not ready for that, it can be devastating. So when I say I regret moving in, it's not because of the care. It's because of what I lost. Freedom, privacy, connection, purpose. Those things are harder to measure, but they're what make life worth living. And if you're standing at that crossroad, wondering whether to take that step, I want you to know exactly what's on the other side. Because I wish someone had told me. When I think about my time in a nursing home, the thing that surprised me most was how quickly I began to lose my independence. You might not realize how much your identity is tied to the simple ability to make decisions for yourself until those decisions are no longer yours to make. I had spent more than 8 decades being in charge of my own life. I raised children, built routines, created memories, managed my home. And then, suddenly in the nursing home, I was reduced to waiting for permission, waiting for help, waiting for the day to unfold according to someone else's design. It's hard to describe what that does to your spirit. At first, I told myself it was just an adjustment. Give it time. I thought you'll settle in. But day after day, I realized it wasn't about adjusting. It was about losing. Losing choices. Losing freedom. Losing that spark that comes from feeling in control of your own destiny. Take something as simple as bathing. At home, I used to decide when I want to shower. Maybe in the morning to start fresh. Maybe at night to relax before bed. In the nursing home, showers were scheduled twice a week, at specific times. If you wanted one on another day, you had to ask, and even then, it depended on whether staff had time. I can't tell you how many nights I sat in bed feeling uncomfortable because I couldn't wash when I needed to. It might seem small, but those small things wear you down. Meals were another battle. I've always been a light eater in the mornings, preferring just a piece of toast and coffee. But in the nursing home, a heavy breakfast was placed in front of me, eggs and all, whether I wanted it or not. If I left the plate untouched, staff would gently remind me that I needed to eat. But my body was my body. I knew what I wanted. It just didn't matter anymore. My neighbor George, who I mentioned before, felt the same way. He once told me, they mean well, But I feel like a child again. Someone decides everything for me. He had been a proud man, always self-reliant, always the one to help others. But in that setting, he needed permission for nearly everything. The loss of dignity was crushing. And here's the truth that people don't like to talk about. When you take away a person's independence, their health begins to decline faster. Not because their body suddenly gives up, but because their spirit does. Motivation disappears. Why bother trying when nothing is up to you anyway? I saw it happen to so many residents. People who had once been lively, strong-willed, began sitting quietly in corners, staring off into space. Their voices grew softer. Their smiles faded. The fire in their eyes dimmed. That wasn't old age doing that. It was the environment. I had a friend named Margaret, a bright woman with a sharp mind. She used to read novels and discuss them with her friends. In the nursing home, she stopped. She told me, "What's the point? Even if I want to talk about a book, no one here is interested. I feel like my world has shrunk to these four walls." And she was right. The world does shrink. Even though you're surrounded by people, you lose the sense of being part of something bigger. That loneliness, that lack of purpose, weighs heavier than most families realize. When my children visited, they'd see me sitting in a chair, clean and cared for, and they'd feel reassured. "Mom looks fine," they'd say, but inside, I wasn't fine. I wanted to scream, "I'm fading in here. I need more than food and medicine. I need my life back." But I didn't say it. I didn't want to burden them. And that silence made me even lonelier. There's another part of this story people rarely mention: how relationships with family change. When you move into a nursing home, family members often feel relieved. They think, now mom or dad is safe. Now professionals are taking care of them. And while that's true in some ways, it can also mean visits become shorter and less frequent. The urgency fades. My daughter used to call me every night when I lived alone, just to check in. Once I moved into the nursing home, those calls became once a week, then every few weeks. "You're in good hand, Mom," she'd say. And yes, but I wasn't in her hands. And that's what I miss most. I don't blame her. Life is busy. She has her own children, her own job, but the shift was painful. Many of my friends in the nursing home told me the same thing. They said, "Ever since I moved here, my family thinks I'm taken care of. They don't realize I still need them, maybe more than ever." That loss of connection is another kind of independence lost. The independence of being a mother, a father, a grandparent in the active sense. You stop being part of the family's daily rhythm, and instead you become a visitor in their lives. I'll give you an example. My friend Robert, an 82-year-old former engineer, used to help his grandson with math homework every evening over the phone. It gave him purpose, joy, pride. After he moved into the nursing home, the calls stopped. His grandson got busy, and Robert no longer felt useful. He told me one day, with tears in his eyes, "I feel like I'm just waiting now, waiting for visits, waiting for meals, waiting for the end." That broke my heart, because I felt the same way. What I want you to take from this is simple. Independence is more than just walking or dressing yourself. It's about having a say in your life, about being part of something bigger, about feeling useful and respected. When that's taken away, the body may survive, but the spirit suffers. And that suffering shows in ways that are hard to measure, but impossible to ignore once you've lived it. If you're still listening, I want you to think about this carefully. If you're considering a nursing home for yourself or someone you love, ask not just about the care, but about the independence. Will there be choices? Will there be privacy? Will there be opportunities to feel useful, to stay connected to family, to live with dignity? Because those things matter just as much, maybe even more, than the meals and the medicine. I often wonder how different things might have been if I had asked those questions before moving in. Maybe I would have chosen differently. Maybe I would have fought harder to stay in my own home, even with help. Or maybe I would have searched for a place that honored independence instead of taking away. What I know for sure is this: losing independence is not just inconvenient. It is heartbreaking. And if you've never experienced it, it's hard to imagine how much it hurts. But I hope by sharing my story, I can help you see it clearly before you make the same choice I did. If you stayed with me through this story, then you already know I don't share these memories for sympathy. I share them because I don't want you or anyone you love to walk blindly into the same regrets that haunt me now. Life inside a nursing home is not all cruelty or neglect. There are kind nurses, good meals, clean sheets, and safety. But what people often forget is that human beings need more than safety. We need meaning. We need connection. We need dignity. And when those things are stripped away, it doesn't matter how soft the pillows are or how efficiently the medicine is handed out. Something inside begins to wither. I saw it in myself, and I saw in the faces of the men and women around me. At first, when we arrived, we still carried pieces of our old selves. I still told stories about the farm I grew up on. George bragged about fixing cars in his youth. Margaret spoke about her favorite novels. But as the months rolled into years, those stories became quieter. People stopped sharing, stopped laughing, stopped remembering who they once were. It was as if the walls of the nursing home pressed in closer and closer until our identities had no space left to breathe. One woman, Eleanor, taught me one of the hardest lessons. She was in her late 80s, vibrant and witty when I first met her. She used to say, "I may be old, but I've still got spark." And she did. But as time passed, that spark dimmed. One afternoon, I found her sitting by the window, staring at the trees. I asked what she was thinking about, and she said softly, "I don't feel like Eleanor anymore. I feel like just another old woman waiting for the end." I didn't know what to say, because in that moment, I realized I felt the same. That's the greatest tragedy of nursing home life. It can strip away the very sense of who you are. You're not mom or dad anymore, not grandma or grandpa. You're a patient, a room number, a body in a bed. And once that identity slips away, so does the will to fight for tomorrow. The other truth I wish more families understood is this. Love cannot be replaced by professional care. No matter how gentle or skilled the staff are, they cannot fill the void left by absent children, grandchildren, or lifelong friends. A nurse can give you your pills, but she cannot give you the warmth of your daughter's hug. An orderly can push your wheelchair, but he cannot replace the joy of walking side by side with your son. Care is not the same as love, and love is what keeps us alive. I think often of Robert, the engineer I mentioned earlier. He used to help his grandson with math over the phone. That gave him joy. That gave him purpose. But once he moved here, the calls stopped. He told me once, "I feel like my family has already buried me, even though I'm still breathing." That may sound harsh, but it was the raw truth of how he felt. I'll never forget his words, because they mirror my own silent fears. So what's the lesson? It's this. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't assume safety is enough. Don't assume a facility can replace love, independence, or dignity. If you are a senior, fight to keep as much of your independence as you can. Ask for help at home. Explore alternatives. But don't surrender your identity just to make things easier for others. And if you're a child or grandchild of someone aging, remember this. Your visits, your phone calls, your presence mean more than any medicine ever could. I am not saying nursing homes should never exist. Sometimes they are necessary. Sometimes families truly cannot manage the care. But what I am saying is this. Think carefully. Look deeper. Ask yourself, will this place keep my loved one alive, or will it keep them living? There is a difference, and it matters more than you can imagine. As for me, I live with the regrets now. I regret not speaking up more for myself. I regret not pushing my children to understand what I truly needed. I regret surrendering my independence so quickly, thinking it would bring relief. I regret not fighting harder to remain part of the world outside these walls. But perhaps the greatest regret is that I didn't realize how precious those small freedoms were until they were gone. The freedom to choose when to wake up. The freedom to cook your own breakfast. The freedom to take a walk when the sun is shining, not when someone has time to escort you. Those little choices add up to a life. Without them, you are not truly living. You are only existing. So let me leave you with this. Don't let convenience rob you of your dignity. Don't let fear push you into a corner where you no longer recognize yourself. And don't let anyone, Not even those who love you most. Convince you that being cared for is the same as being truly alive. I have lived long enough to tell you this one truth. In the end, it won't be the safety you remember, it will be the freedom. It won't be the scheduled meals or the neatly made bed. It will be the mornings you chose for yourself, the laughter you shared at your own table, the walks you took simply because you wanted to. That is life. That is living. And so, if you remember nothing else from my story, remember this. Safety can keep you alive, but only independence and love can keep you living. Don't trade them away too soon.